Travis, you led the charge against Lance Armstrong in the doping case against Lance Armstrong. He continually claimed that he's the sacrificial lamb for all cycling, or that you personally have a vendetta against him. How do you comment on that in terms of the broader doping charges?
Well, I think it's easy for him to say that soundbite, but obviously there's no facts, and it's as far away from the truth as it possibly could be. I think, if anything, we were overly generous to him and all the riders because it invited them in early in the case, even before we brought the case, to have them play part of the solution in order to fully, clean up the system. And the term we used was dismantle the corrupt system that had existed in the sport of cycling. And we really wanted to have all the athletes, including Lance Armstrong, which is why we invited him in, as well as the other 11 former teammates that did come in. And he was the only one that didn't come in at that point, unfortunately, because he very well could have been, received the same outcome in the case as those other athletes did. And he chose not to do that. And he chose to, ultimately fight the case, and then threw in the towel at the end and exercised his right not to challenge. And he, perfectly knew exactly what the sanction that was going to go into place was going to be. Well, look, we're hopeful at some point he is going to come in, and we've met with him once after the case was over. We've attempted numerous times, even here recently, to have him come in and finally be truthful, because we still believe he has an awful lot of information that would be helpful in our overall effort to clean up the sport of cycling. And certainly if there was any personal issues, efforts here, it'd be pretty simple just to wipe our hands of it and say lifetime ban exists and let's move on. But we're doing actually the opposite of that.
So we can assume the door is still open for Lance Armstrong to speak to USADA?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if he speaks to USADA, how does it affect his lifetime ban, his future involvement in triathlon, and the whole truth and reconciliation discussion? Will it be all forgiven? Does he still have to serve his penalty, or will he be credited for assistance given?
It's really speculation to know, because the first step on all of those who qualified for substantial assistance, as the WADA code requires, is to come in and be truthful and be full and answer each and every question, and provide information that ultimately is helpful to our and others' authority to clean up the sport of cycling, discover rule violations against those that participated in it. And we think he can be helpful in that regard. But the first step is him deciding to come in and be truthful on all fronts. And then we can decide. Technically, it's possible for a lifetime ban under the rules to be reduced down to an 8-year period of ineligibility. Anything outside of that would clearly be outside of the rules at this stage. Now, whether a Truth and Reconciliation Commission is ultimately put in place and there's some other opportunity, we don't know, and it's too early to know. What we do know is that time is of the essence, and we're sorry back in June when he didn't come in and we gave him that opportunity, because we firmly felt at that point there would have been even more success to our effort if he would have come in and been truthful at that time, more success to ultimately dismantle the system that had taken over this sport.
Many of the cyclists that got caught with doping offenses, those that were either riding during the Lance era, are often claiming that they're the scapegoats, that the officials are going after them, but the coaches, the corrupt officials, the suppliers, the doctors, the Dr. Michele Ferraris are getting off. How was USADA dealing with the other professionals that were involved in this sophisticated doping scheme?
Yeah. Well, when we first heard and saw the allegations that Floyd Landis provided to us in May of 2010, we stepped back from it, and we knew that the athletes that participated in this deep and broad drug-using culture to win, to a certain extent, were victims. Now, make no mistake, they made their choices, and there were actually a lot of athletes who never entered the pro peloton, or who entered it and refused to use these drugs, so they left it. And those are truly the victims of this drug culture. That said, we knew the athletes themselves who decided to participate in the drug culture and participate in the sport were a lot less culpable than those within the professional ranks, the team doctors, the team owners, anyone in sport management that allowed and condoned this system to take place. So goal number one for us when we first heard these allegations was to do everything possible to allow the athletes an opportunity to come in, be held accountable, be obviously exposed and disqualified where appropriate, but at the end of the day, allow them to provide substantial assistance in accordance with the rules, to allow them to give us information and evidence so that we then could hold those in the sports system accountable. And we charged 5 at the time, and others since then have come out and have been held accountable. And that's a goal that we're still on. It's why we've been pushing so hard for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, because we firmly believe the only way you're going to clean out the system is to get all the facts on the table in a way that you can learn from the lessons and move forward once and for all.